Okay, let's take a look at this question about precious metals. Let's look at the question. Where does it say that DoD should try to provide any required precious metals to contractors instead of having the contractor buy them on their own? All right, so let's pull out the search terms here. So should try to provide any required precious metals. That try to provide, that doesn't sound like something the FAR would say. So I'm going to stay away from that for a minute. Required precious metals to contractors instead of having the contractor buy them on their own. So precious metals, maybe required precious metals. Well, let's just do precious metals for now. But that is certainly it appears to be the subject of this question. So I'm going to highlight that to contractors instead of having the contractor provide them on their own. That last part there, that's an interesting thing too, because that's kind of what we're talking about. So where does it say that DoD should try to provide precious metals instead of having the contractor buy them on their own? So this required precious metals, that may also be something I want to start with because that seems like it's part of the subject. So I'm going to start with that. Let's start with required precious metals and let's see where we go. Let's go over here to the search and let's put in quotations required precious metals. Let's search the FAR. Let's search the DFARS and the DFARS PGI. And let's submit that and see what happens. All right, I've got 6 results, so that's good. And I'm just going to start kind of combing through this a little bit. So it appears that right off the bat, I'm going to be in part 8, and probably more specifically 8.73. That kind of looks like, or maybe not. Well, definitely FAR part 8, DFARS part 208. So that's where I'm going to be hanging out for this question, it appears. We do have a clause here, but we're going to ignore the clauses because we do not, these exercises do not involve clauses as answers. So this is okay. I'm going to read this a little bit. When the content officers determine that the required precious metals are not available from, do not require precious metals to manufacture. So that's okay, but I'm not seeing anything that really meets the intent of my question here. So I'm actually going to modify my search a little bit, and I'm going to add another search term in here. I think I'm going to put contractor because now I have 2 search terms that it's searching for independently, but it's going to try and find them when they're together. And so I'm going to try that. So I've got 6 results right now. Let's see what happens. Okay, now I'm on 4. All right, so let's see here. I'm just kind of looking in this context of the question that it talks about having the contractor procure them on their own. And you know what? I'm really not seeing anything in particular, so that's kind of discouraging. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to, one thing I will note is that I'm not seeing any FAR references here, right? I've got the FAR checked, but I don't have any FAR references here. And so that's telling me that the FAR is probably silent on this issue and that it's a DFARS issue. And I probably need to go to part 208 to really check this out. So I'm going to open this up in a new tab. I'm going to go to part 208 and I tell you what, I'm just going to do a search starting out for precious metals. Okay, so I've got 13 search terms here. Now that seems like it might be a lot, but it's really not too many to get through. And let me just show you. So if I start going through precious metals, so we're talking about it in 208.73 and then 208.7304. If I go down to the next one, so subpart 208.73, use of government-owned precious metals. And then I go right here. We've got definitions. which I'm doubting that the answer is going to be found in a definition, but maybe. Okay, it doesn't look like it is here. And there we're talking about refined precious metals, so that's not what I need. So let me go to the next one. DoD policy is for maximum participation in the precious metals recovery program. That's not what I need. Let me go to the next one. DoD components shall furnish recovered precious metal contained in the DSCP inventory to production contractors rather than use contractor furnished precious metals. Those, okay. Whenever the contracting officer determines to be in the government's best interest. So this sounds like similar to my question. Let me read the question. Where does it say that DoD should try to provide any required precious metals to contractors instead of having the contractor buy them on their own? Well, we're talking about the DoD here, right? So that's good. That matches up. DoD components shall furnish recovered precious metals rather than use contractor furnished precious metals whenever the contracting officer determines. Yeah, so here's that contractor furnished precious metals. So that's a fancy way of saying instead of having the contractor buy them on their own, right? And so this is a good example of a question where we didn't really have a lot of search terms to go off of that were actually, presented in the regulations the way that the question presented them. And so you kind of had to be a little bit inventive as to how you were going to find this answer. But I think this is the answer. I think so. I'm going to go through the other ones just to double check. But for right now, I'm going to put, let's see, this is DFARS. Let me fix that. Okay. Let's see, did I get it? Yeah. So this is DFARS 208.7302. And there's no paragraph here. It's just, this is just the paragraph. This is that part right there. So I'm not going to put a paragraph that's not A or B or anything like that. So, okay. I'm going to go down to these other ones and see if there's anything else that might be better. We've got a PGI here, so that could be interesting. I may check that out here in a minute. And then another PGI, okay. And let's see. That's talking about clauses. Not interested in clauses. And let's see. So I went through 10, 11, and the last one that we're talking about, oh, I'm through them. So just like that, I was able to get through 13 different instances. So I'm feeling pretty good about this answer. I still feel like it's the best one, but it sounds like I need to check out the DFARS PGI. And so you know what? I'm actually not even in the official version of the DFARS, am I? I'm still at acquisition.gov. So let me check this out in the official version of the DFARS. So let me go there. All right. And let me scroll down to 208. 208.7302 right here. Let me open that up, and let me open up that PGI as well. Okay, so it was 0.7302, so that's down here. So it looks like this is still the same. DoD component shall furnish recovered precious metals. Yep, so that's still the same, so that is still good. Now let me check out the PGI here. And so what I'm going to do is open this up. So I need to look at 0.7303 and 0.7304. All right. Now if you wanted to, you could just do a search for precious metals, but there's, but there should be a lot of, okay, there's 11. So let's see. I'm just scanning through here. That does not look like it answers the question. That does not answer the question. That does not answer the question. Let's see here. That doesn't answer the question. Now these are things where someone might get tripped up and they say, well, this talks about precious metals requirements, right? Don't we talk about precious metals here? Yeah, we do, but it doesn't answer the question, right? It doesn't fit the final step here. Does my answer truly address the specific question that was asked? The question being asked here has to do with having, what does the DoD do with regards to precious metals instead of having the contractor buy them? That's not what this is talking about, okay? So you need to make sure that you understand that just because we're talking about precious metals here doesn't mean that it's answering the question. This answer, the answer that we found back here still answers the question in the best way. So I'm still going through, checking out a few other things. And no, I don't have anything else. Now I got to check the class deviations, and so I'm going to go ahead and open that up. Let me go to the search tool, and I think I'm going to do precious metals. Not seeing anything. Nothing for precious metals. Let me make sure that I'm up here at the top. Don't want to miss something. Yeah, I'm not seeing anything. So I'm feeling confident that my answer is located right here in DFARS 208.7302. So that's what I'm going to cite as my answer. I do want to note too that you can see that as you start getting into having to check the DFARS and the PGI and the class deviations, these questions take more time, and that's just the way it is. They do take more time to research. But if you do research them and you go through and check them, then you feel confident to know that the answer that you found, where you found it, is indeed the correct answer. You don't have to worry that there's some other answer lurking out there in regulation or mandatory procedures or the PGI or class deviation. All right, so that's that one.